Hey, on the channel, it's the return of the Kyle Peterson Top 5, as today we're counting down an old school one. We're counting down my top 5 Nikolai Volkoff figures of all time.
The spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Welcome everyone, Kyle here. Welcome back to the channel for another edition of the Kyle Peterson Top 5 list. And as I said at the top, we are counting down my top 5 Nikolai Volkoff figures of all time. Now, for a lot of people, especially newer wrestling fans, they probably have maybe no idea who Nikolai Volkoff is, or they don't care at all. And I guess I get that from some degrees. But of course, a kid like me growing up in the 80s, Nikolai Volkoff was always around. So these top 5s, top 10 countdowns, yeah, you got to do the Ultimate Warriors. We got to do some of these deeper cuts, especially in 2022. Deeper cuts like Nikolai Volkoff every once in a while. And hey, we do one of these videos every single week, so we got to get to everybody eventually. And Nikolai, it felt like it was his time to shine because he just recently had a figure out. So we're going to do Nikolai today. And like I said, a bit of deep cut to some, but kids that grew up in the 80s, or a lot of longtime fans back in the 70s might remember him as the Mongol, of course, wrestling with Bruno Sammartino. And I always felt that Nikolai, especially early Nikolai, had a very underrated wrestling physique back then. A very big strongman, power lifter size. Just a good guy, and it seemed like he was a really good guy outside of the ring. You hear a lot of stories about Nikolai, how nice of a guy he was, and how personable he was with the fans, just happy to be in America, really, at the end of the day. He played a huge Russian, but really did like America a whole lot. He became a U.S. citizen, as we all know. But Nikolai, an 80s legend, of course, time with the Iron Sheik, with Freddie Blassie, Slick, you name it, and quite a few figures over quite a few different lines over his whole career of getting action figures. And that's what we're going to do today. It's going to be tough, but we're going to count down his top 5. And I'm going to tell you guys, make sure you put your top 5 list in the comments down below as usual. Of course, starting off at number 5, working your way to number 1. Number 1, your favorite Nikolai Volkoff figure of all time. So without further ado, let's kick it off. And let's kick it off with the old Kikalai at number 5. All right, kicking it off at number 5. Some of you guys might have got that. And this is the most recent Nikolai Volkoff, and one we just unboxed on the channel not too long ago. It is, of course, from Mattel. It is, of course, from the Mattel Creations Retro Wave. Nikolai Volkoff, old Kikalai Nikolai, with the Kikalai finishing move, which I never knew he had. Kind of made up there, but very funny, very tongue-in-cheek. But Nikolai Volkoff getting a retro. Now, we never got a retro, or I shouldn't say retro, a Hasbro back in the day. But during the retro comeback time with Mattel, we did get an Iron Sheik. And what were we missing with the Iron Sheik? His tag team partner, Nikolai Volkoff, from the 80s. So we finally got this all these years later. As we know, the Mattel Creations retros are in packs of 4. This worked for me. I know some people complained about Nikolai, didn't want Nikolai in their collection, but to get the 3 Heart Foundation members, you had to have one more figure. Who are you going to have? Yes, they could have brought Greg Valentine in maybe early for that. I don't know. They probably could have done something. But Nikolai worked for me because you needed him with Iron Sheik. So since they're not doing single-carded figures, this did work in my brain. But it's a good one. Is it the greatest figure of all time? By no means. And it's way down the list. It's beating out the thumb wrestlers on Nikolai Volkoff on my list. And maybe it's the shiny new toy example here because this is just fresh in my mind. But this Nikolai is coming here at number 5. He does got his patented hat. No shirt, no soft goods, no plastic goods, nothing like that. A very, very plain Jane figure. But building out your retro universe, having a partner with the Iron Sheik, a guy that we really could have possibly gotten the Hasbros back in the day, which we did not. It works for me, and that's why this Nikolai comes in at number 5 on my top 5 list. All right, we carry on with our Nikolai Volkoff countdown, and number 4 is another recent Nikolai Volkoff. Within the span of 1 year, this going back to the end of 2021, and then, of course, the retro we just talked about. Nikolai getting 2 figures from Mattel. What a time to be alive for Nikolai Volkoff, which, unfortunately, he did die quite a few years ago. But somewhere he's smiling down, getting 2 action figures in the last year. Of course, who is number 4? We're going all the way back to, what was it, Legend Series 9, I want to say it was. Nikolai Volkoff, the Target exclusive. A very good Nikolai, of course, in the Legends set, which makes a lot of sense. Now, we see current day, as I'm filming this, the Legends really are fairly easy to get at Target. The Chases may be a struggle every once in a while, but the Legends, very, very easy, and there's a great abundance of them hitting the stores. We talked about that a lot on the channel, about the COVID wave. buyers buying at higher demands. The demand's high, we're going to buy more. Unfortunately, it takes about a year to get to us, and then the demand drops, then they're stuck with all this product. That's where we are with the Legends right now, if you ask me, putting my business hat on. But Nikolai Volkoff came in at Series 9. This was before the deluge of Legends figures. It was okay to get. There was clearance in a few areas, but this isn't like a Stacy Keibler. This isn't like some of the other ones that you just see over and over and over. This Nikolai was a little harder to get, and it would be worth a lot more if Nikolai was a little popular. I would have to assume that. But it's very cool to get an updated version of Nikolai Volkoff, as we hadn't had a Nikolai from Mattel in quite a few years until this came out. So as we always say, there's always new collectors, always new people jumping in. This got those people a Nikolai at a better cost than an old exclusive they probably couldn't get their hands on at a reasonable cost. But this Nikolai is really good with the soft goods jacket. Of course, he does have his hat, but it is removable this time. Very cool, the jacket. This is more of good guy Nikolai Volkoff, where the prior edition we got from Mattel was bad guy Nikolai Volkoff. So that's nice. You got the American flag. They got away from all the Russian stuff, the USSR and the CCCP kind of stuff, and they just kind of went plain red, plain flags, which a little bit of a cop-out in some ways, I guess, but it's an ultra PC universe we're in right now where people get offended about those kind of things, and I get it, I guess, if you're over there and that offends you, but obviously it's not going to offend somebody like me that grew up with Nikolai and understood the character and all that kind of stuff, and I'm sure a lot of you guys watching this are in agreement there. But it is Mattel. They are a big corporation. They got to mind their P's and Q's, as one may say. But it's a bit of a plain Jane figure, of course. Great for customizers, great for things like that. But at the end of the day, a very cool Nikolai, and quite possibly the last Nikolai Volkoff figure we'll ever get from Mattel. There's a chance we might get that Tuxedo one when he was part of Ted DiBiase's group, but I'm not going to hold my breath. And I think there's a lot of these late 70s, early 80s legends, the Iron Sheiks of the world, that our day of getting action figures is coming to an end from Mattel just because people have moved on. A lot of these guys are people older than me wanting these, and they're stopping collecting and things. So when we get a guy like Nikolai here, support it, because it might be your last time around the sun getting a chance at Nikolai or a guy like him. So there it is, coming in number 4, the Target exclusive Nikolai Volkoff. All right, we're at the halfway point. You got your list together? Make sure you put it in the comments down below. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video. You guys know you want to, but we got these videos every single Thursday. You don't want to miss out on one of these top 5 lists. And I always love it when you guys contribute as well. So coming in at number 3, we go back to Mattel, and we go all the way back to 2010 for the beginning of the Mattel line. Of course, we know Mattel got the line in 2010, and they brought us a Nikolai Volkoff as part of a 2-pack with the Iron Sheik. So there it is. This is a little bit more non-PC. We talked about the PC-ness of the last one. This one's non-PC because 2010, it was a different time. Oh, what a time to be alive 2010 was. But you get the hammer and sickle right there. You get the USSR. This is definitely bad guy Nikolai Volkoff. This is anti-America Nikolai Volkoff teaming up with Sheik, with Freddie Blassie. All that kind of stuff. That's what we're getting right here. Once again, a nice soft goods jacket. A lot of the same stuff we saw with the other one we just talked about. The other one had a little bit of updates, all the newness, the new features from Mattel. But this is old school 2010 Mattel. Once again, you get the hat that is removable, right like so. But a good way to give us a Nikolai we had in the past in that last one, to update it. And that's what they did with here. But this is the base. This is where they started from. This was a Toys R Us exclusive. Like I said, man, if we could just go back and just have some more time at Toys R Us. But unfortunately, that day has passed and that ship has sailed. But coming in at number 3, 2010 2-pack with the Iron Sheik, Mattel, Nikolai Volkoff. All right, we're down to the final 2, and we're in the number 2 Nikolai Volkoff figure of all time as voted by me. And at number 2, we're going all the way back to one of, if not my favorite toy line of all time. We're going to Jakks Class Superstars. We're going to 2005. We're going to 2005's Classic Superstars Series 5. Nikolai Volkoff, and a lot of fun hunting this Nikolai. Very excited for Series 5. As you guys know, if you watch my Tuesday Jakks Class Superstars videos, we've talked all about this guy. But Series 5 was an awesome set that I really, really do like. Nikolai a part of that, and I remember searching for him. And I feel like, if I remember correctly, I got him at Walgreens of all places. That's where he hit first in my area. I could be wrong on that, but for some reason, maybe I just remember seeing him at Walgreens. I don't know. But a good Nikolai Volkoff figure. Got his soft goods hat. So Mattel gave us the hard plastic. We got soft goods with Jakks. Jakks gave us a beautiful soft goods sweater like Nikolai used to wear in his early 80s run, I guess early time with the Iron Sheik. Just very, very good. And this is very cool. A lot of people talk about that Stone Cold Steve Austin Ultimate figure. Stay with me here. Stay with me here. That Stone Cold Ultimate Edition figure where he had the soft goods Austin shirt and it was pullover. It was like a real shirt. There was no Velcro, things like that. And everybody's like, Mattel, they're so far ahead of the game. Oh my gosh, can you believe they're doing that? Well, look at old Nikolai here. Jax was doing a lot of this stuff way before Mattel was. They just don't get the props as time has moved on. People forget the past. If you forget the past, you're doomed to repeat it, and that's what you get sometimes. But the very good soft goods here on the Nikolai. Got the USSR across the logo. Like I said, the soft goods. A good look of Nikolai. Looks just like him. Just a big bruiser brute that was actually a threat in the early 80s to Hulkamania, Bruno Sammartino, guys like that. Just a very underrated Nikolai Volkoff for sure after all these years. Very forgotten, as I've talked about earlier in this video. But I'll never forget about this figure. It was a special time hunting it down, and I still feel this figure holds up all these years later. That is Jakks Class Superstars Series 5, Nikolai Volkoff. All right, we're at the end of the road here. You got your list together. We're at the #1 Nikolai Volkoff figure of all time. Make sure you put your list in the comments down below. And as I always say, make sure you put them in order. And don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as every single Thursday, we got a brand new top 5 and sometimes a top 10 countdown, and you never know what we might be doing here on the channel. And if you want to be a part of it, you want to help me choose some stuff, hit up the old Patreon link in the description below, where you can get early access to videos like this, bonus content, exclusive content, monthly giveaways. Best of all, you do support the channel, and you can just message me on there and have a say in what top 5 and what top 10 you would like to see fairly soon. So check that out below. But without further ado, let's get down to old #1. And I have to say, #1 is probably the most sold Nikolai Volkoff figure of all time. I'm sure a lot of you longtime fans know where I'm going with this one. We're taking it all the way back to 1984. Oh, what a time to be alive. I don't really remember 84 too much. I think I first got this figure in probably 1987. And that was the beauty of toys back then, for good or bad. Things were released and they kept coming out, and you could get Nikolai 3 years later on the store pegs. That's just kind of the way the cookie crumbled back then. But I would say, for most people in the world, when they think of Nikolai Volkoff, especially in the action figure department, this is what they think of. So many kids had him. When Iron Sheik Mania was running wild, they had him in Sheik. Maybe they got the 2-pack, maybe they got the single-carded version. Whatever they had this Nikolai. He was a staple in about every friend of mine's LJN collection. He seemed to be one of the easier ones to get. I think that was why. But whenever I close my eyes and I think of Nikolai Volkoff figures, this jumps up at #1 every single time for me. Yes, it doesn't have the bells and whistles of Mattel or even the Jakks Class Superstars figure, but if you grew up in the time, you had the nostalgia for something like this, you would understand that. Maybe you still do, even if you didn't. But a very iconic Nikolai Volkoff. Most people see this, they know who it is. I would say there's a lot of parents of my parents' age that never watched wrestling in their life, but they know Nikolai Volkoff just because of this figure. That is a very good possibility. Of course, a good LJN, got an accessory with him. You got his hat. One of the patented things of Nikolai Volkoff figures over the year is a removable hat, except for that retro for whatever reason. But a lot of us, of course, remember this hat, and I'm sure a lot of kids lost this hat along the way of having this figure in their life. But a very, very good representation of Nikolai Volkoff. One that is easily dinged up as well. This is a very clean edition of this one. Is a lot of these had the USSR or the red shirt worn off and ruined and stuff, like you see with a lot of LJNs, because let's be honest, most LJNs were played with in the 80s, as we know. But a fabulous version of Nikolai Volkoff, and that's why it's coming in at #1 in my top 5 list. But what say you guys? Make sure you put your list together and who you choose as the #1 Nikolai Volkoff figure of all time, if you can do it. If you can do it. And then, of course, like I said, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Turn on the old notification bell. You won't want to miss a video. Follow along over at SirPaul64 on Twitter, Instagram, _Kyle_Peterson, on social media, and I'd like to see you guys over there. And then don't forget about ProWrestlingTees.com. Search Kyle Peterson. Support the channel. So for the top 5 Nikolai Volkoff figures of all time, I'm Kyle. I'll see you guys all real soon.